He's at the AMBO. It's not a good sign. Don't worry, nothing to worry about. It's just what should be annual state of the parish address. Admittedly, I didn't do one last year. I apologize for that. But we will have one now. And I planned this a couple months ago, not having looked at the readings for this weekend, looked at the gospel. But by God's providence, it seems pretty appropriate. Though I feel like I'm very blessed to be a pastor here, because I don't feel like I have to throw out anybody so that they wail and grind their teeth outside, because I think most people here at St. Joseph are very generous, very good with the talents that God has given them, both on a financial level, but also in so many other ways. As you can imagine, pastoring through a pandemic has been interesting. But I recognize that all of you have had your own challenges during these last 7 or 8 months. This time has been enlightening to me. It has shown me how much people love their faith and hunger for it. It has shown me how important it is for people to stay connected to their parish. And it has shown me, though this really isn't a surprise, how dedicated the parishioners of St. Joseph are to this parish and to the faith. The people of St. Joseph are proud of this parish, and they should be. It is full of good people, and it does many good things. Our parishioners, I believe, can be proud of this community and its efforts during this pandemic. Let's just look at some numbers. In the last 7 months, we have live streamed over 25 novenas for our Mother of Perpetual Help, over 100 afternoon reflections, over 120 holy desserts with Monsignor, nearly 200 nightly rosaries, and nearly 500 masses. We have received donations because of that from 12 different states during the pandemic, thanks to this online presence, which coincidentally helps to cover nearly all of the expenditures that we've put into making our online presence possible. Getting folks back on campus and in church for Mass was a huge undertaking that took countless volunteers. Whether it was Eucharistic ministers bringing communion to fellow parishioners in their pews, in the school, or in their cars, ushers shepherding folks to their pews with a strange new seating system that their pastor has foisted upon them, and parking attendants directing traffic in our lots. Our people stepped up to help. When we made a plea for parishioners to reach out in our Keeping Connected in Christ Calling campaign, scores of volunteers said yes. Because of their generous care, hundreds of St. Joseph's parishioners shut up in their homes had real contact with their parish. We've had several parishioners willingly lead Project DNA groups so that these small faith-sharing groups can continue to grow or to start even in the struggles of social distancing. We have a staff that should make our parishioners very proud. Our maintenance staff has patiently sanitized our church 3 times a day, in our EEC, and our school, and now our Adoration Chapel. Our parish office staff has creatively figured out ways to make things happen and keep people going in the midst of frustrating restrictions. Our school administration and teachers have knocked it out of the park in terms of pivoting to keep our kids learning while also keeping them safe. Because of their efforts, we were able to welcome over 20 new students previously at public schools because the local districts were not able to be in person. Our EEC staff has done a superb job of taking care of our little ones. Incidentally, we have a waiting list, so we are in need of more staff. So if you are looking for a job, let us know. Our accounting staff has worked tirelessly to obtain and track the PPP loan, making sure we did not need to lay off or furlough any employees. Which brings me to the finances of the parish. There are positives with just a few challenges. As you know, we finished the renovation of the church over 2.5 years ago. This campaign, Journey of Grace, required a loan from the Archdiocese. We are very close to paying off that loan very early. We are on track to pay it off next summer, but we have a couple of substantial pledges hopefully still coming in, which means that we can pay it off sooner. As for the One Faith, One Family, One Future in Christ campaign conducted by the Archdiocese, we did better than almost every other parish. We had the greatest percentage of parishioners participating in the whole Archdiocese. And we received pledges for nearly 90% of our goal, which was second highest in the Archdiocese for anyone that didn't have a combined campaign. That campaign still has much to raise around the Archdiocese, so please continue to pray for it. But I am very grateful for your generosity to both of these campaigns. As for our money situation, we sit with a healthy amount on hand. But our monthly expenses make this reserve. We have reserved funds available, but we would rather not have to keep tapping into those. We have not had to do many large renovations on campus this year. We are finishing a required kitchen renovation in the EEC. We did not construct a playground for the school this summer due to financial uncertainties thanks to COVID. But that project, funded by our rebate from the One Faith campaign, will hopefully be in the works this coming summer. Last year's school auction, thanks to the hard work of so many of our school parents, was very successful, raising well over $200,000. And this year's auction, which happened virtually last weekend, and so because it was virtual, was definitely a challenge, and yet it's raised well over $160,000. Because of COVID, and in conjunction with all the parishes of Johnson County, the typical yearly salary increases of all our employees on campus were frozen. This was hard to do, especially given how hard our staff has worked during this year. But our employees understand and are willing to sacrifice. But hopefully we can thank them at some point in the near future. As for the weekly collection, we obviously suffered at the beginning of COVID since no one was on campus for a month and a half. But thankfully, so many of you stepped up and increased your contributions to help fill the gap. With time, the collection rose back to pre-COVID levels. So I thank all of you for that. Whether you were putting your donation in the basket here on campus, giving online, or mailing in your contribution. With all of that being said, we still have some challenges. Although we did increase our weekly collection nearly to the pre-COVID level, we are still down overall. Our collection each week is about $4,000 less than it was 5 years ago. Meanwhile, as expected, expenses increase. So what has happened? Well, we did have the Journey of Grace and the One Faith campaigns, which understandably would impact weekend collections. Though folks are still paying off the Archdiocesan pledge, typically collections will be back to about normal by now. Those of you doing the math, one of the biggest differences would be who's in charge. You have a different pastor than you did 5 years ago. That may have something to do with it, I'm willing to admit. Regardless, it is an issue that hopefully we can address. If for some reason you have stopped your contributions or have cut them back, but maybe don't need to, maybe COVID hasn't impacted you as much as it has other people, I encourage you to think about that, to think about possibly going back to where it was 5 years ago. We have a generous parish, and for that I'm very grateful. We are not in a bad financial situation right now at all, but a lower collection could have an impact over time. I am confident that the parish can rise to this challenge, but it will take all of us taking stock of our current situation. I'd encourage all of you to consider online giving. You can do so on our website, and there is a link on our Facebook page. You can set up ongoing giving, which is really helpful to you, giving you one less thing to think about each week, and is really helpful to the parish because it helps us to plan better, especially in this time when so many of our parishioners are not on campus each week. Which brings me to our other challenge. We have had a lot of people come back, confident in our safety measures. We have many who are still staying away, though. Some follow us online each week, but some have slowly become forgetful, maybe even complacent about remaining engaged with our liturgies on a weekly basis. When COVID stops disrupting our lives, we will have much to do to bring these folks back, while also continuing to evangelize those who were never here. I ask that you pray for your fellow parishioners. Stay in contact with those parishioners to whom you are close, and keep your ears open for ways to help us reach out to the flock. Post-COVID St. Joseph will still be a beautiful place to find Jesus and community, but it will take all of us to make that happen. So friends, thank you for taking your talents, whatever they are, and for putting them to the service of the parish and of our community. Thank you for your time, your talent, and your treasure. Thank you for helping to make this the wonderful parish that it is. And thanks for making me one of the most blessed pastors in the world.